It's Michelle, owner of the Credit Conscious Network, and today I have a very special guest that's going to talk to us about how having good credit has helped her in business. And she is actually one of my accounting clients. So this is so special that she could be here with us today. So Miss Shayna Marsha is here today. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Miss Marsha.
Okay, so serial entrepreneur, that's my newest title that I'm embracing. Over the years, I have established a number of different businesses, some local in the Atlanta area. I actually have a business based out of Houston, but it is a global organization. And I have worked really hard towards establishing a gym. It's a 30-minute kickboxing gym in Atlanta area in Grant Park. Insurance agency, which offers all lines of insurance, auto, home, business, life, is the Insurance Genie. And we are actually remotely located because we offer insurance nationwide. And then we also have Girl Boss Suites, which is an online cohort for women who are aspiring to be in business, are looking to grow their business. So it's more of a community than education.
Okay.
And then last but not least, I'm recently establishing a logistics company that Michelle has helped me so much with so far. And in that endeavor, I'm doing home delivery primarily through Amazon.
Okay. As you can see, she's a very busy lady, so I'm just so glad that she took some time out of her very busy schedule to come and educate us. So my first question for you, Ms. Marshall, is how has having good credit helped you in business?
So it's been pivotal. When I decided that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, one of the things that I did was prepare for that journey. I didn't just wake up one day and say, let's do it. I wanted to prepare. And not only did that involve what people normally think it involves, which is, okay, where am I going to get the financing? Let me figure out where I'm going to get the clients. But for me, it was also preparing myself financially to be in the best position to have access to credit lines or credit cards, make sure I was in the best position personally and in a business wise, so that I can seek additional credit and leverage it, because I was going to leverage personal credit lines if I didn't have access to enough business credit lines to start those. So it was extremely important to make sure that I had my credit in order so that I would be an attractive candidate to banks and other lending institutions for not only business credit, but also personal credit if I needed it to use that in the establishing my businesses as well.
Absolutely, and that's what, Ms. Marshall, releasing the app so that clients can meet credit repair specialists so that they can get their credit in order, because you have to make sure that you're personally in order so that you can even get approved, you can even have access to the funding, to the credit cards, to the bank loans.
Yeah.
So that segues right into my next question of, are you utilizing business credit along with your personal credit? And you did touch on that a little bit. So how are you utilizing your business credit right now?
Okay, so currently in most of my businesses, I have staff or I have some level of a business manager that assists me with expenses, day-to-day purchases that we may need to make. And so I do have business credit cards that I utilize, that I give to them to help me with what people would say they used to use petty cash for.
Right.
So instead of having petty cash or having to cash app them or figure out how we're going to pay for something, I'm able to use my business credit cards that I have gotten in their individual names. And because they are of my authorized users of my company, and I may establish a smaller limit for them than what the actual limit is, so that they can make those purchases on a daily basis without the interruption of me having to go to the office and make the purchase and swipe the card, or call the vendor and swipe the card to pay in order for the purchases to be made or the service to be executed. So I absolutely use them every day in the business management. Mine is usually for smaller expenses, and that's for like my authorized office manager or business manager.
Wow. So that's streamlining your business, because you don't have to Cash App or Zelle your assistant. Even my assistant, she have access to a card, so we don't, have to call me and say, hey, Michelle, I need this. They're authorized users on our business credit cards.
Absolutely. Wow. And that is just so, like, when you think about it, you're like, well, what would they need to buy? It could be anything. Mm-hmm. I may say, hey, we need some more business cards.
Right.
Can you put together this event that we're having? Pay the videographer, pay for the venue.
Right.
And then I don't have to stop what I'm doing or figure out how I can make time to she's on the phone with them, so it increases efficiencies. We can get it done now. We get the location booked, we get the service provider booked, and we don't have to interrupt our days because I'm running off doing something else.
Exactly. And also for tracking, as an accountant, when I look at the credit card statement, it's easier to track instead of going through Cash App statements, going through Zelle. What did I Zelle her for? It's right there on the credit card statement. So it's going to be much easier for an accountant like myself to keep track of the purchases that your staff is making.
Yeah, I love that.
Good point.
And then I guess also, which I haven't necessarily utilized it as much for, but if I need to make a larger purchase, and I'm, in that moment, I'm not having to figure out what account to take it from or how to, I can utilize those credit cards that have those types of limits as well. Because even when I very first started in my very first business, my bank offered me a credit card, and it was maybe a $7,000 limit or so. Okay. And even though it wasn't extremely large, but at the time I didn't have any business credit, and it was able to help me with just, getting the supplies and everything I needed to start to open the office.
Absolutely. And with you opening business, and we know that sometimes we run on a shoestring budget, having access to these business credit cards can give us some flexibility in our spending. If money is tight, okay, we have $7,000, so this will help us get the things that we need until money can start flowing in.
Absolutely.
All right, so what are a couple of keys for people starting a new business? Because everybody's like looking at these YouTube videos, looking at social media, TikTok, looking at these videos about everybody and their mom starting a business.
Absolutely.
And it's not as easy as it seems, guys. So what are a couple keys for people who are starting a new business or even just wanting to expand their current business?
So you took the words right out of my mouth, because it's not easy. So the very first thing is being ready to commit your time, your energy, and your effort to something new. And when you think about that, you have to be in a mindset of saying, my day is not going to look like my day looks today. Because if I'm adding something, I'm automatically adding a time commitment. I'm automatically adding the commitment of my energy and my effort to the thing. And a lot of people are just like, oh, I'm going to open an online boutique. Let me grab some clothes off of, the wholesaler website, get them to my home, and then they're just magically going to sell. Right?
Abracadabra.
But they're not. It's the energy now. It's the effort. Yeah. It's the commitment that you're going to make to promoting that business regularly, to figuring out how you can get clients. What does your marketing plan look like? So my very first key is you have to be ready to commit. You have to have a mindset of the thing. So if the thing is growing my business, that's your mindset until you get to a place where your business is able to operate without you having to fully commit 100% of all of your energies and effort towards that. And if you're not ready to fully commit, I would say either don't do it or just keep planning until you're ready to fully make the commitment, because the business is not going to run without your 100% wholly, fully committed self. So I think that's number one.
Okay.
Number two is definitely the planning aspect. So social media makes business look easy.
Right.
We're not planning.
Right.
We're not having to create the details behind the goals. We're not having to execute on those things. You have to plan to create a successful business, and then you have to execute on your plan daily. Day Every single day. Right?
Even Sundays.
I asked my, I recently started coaching. We were talking about that, doing some business coaching. And I asked the clients that I have, so what are you doing every single day to grow your business? And a lot of times it's just dead air. Like, well, today but you have to be intentional.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be intentionally. So what are you intentionally doing on your plan daily to make your business successful?
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And then last but not least, I would say, you know, that you have to also make sure that you do take some time for yourself.
Okay.
Because we get in business, and once you really get in there, so you're fully committed, you're executing on this amazing plan, and it is starting to grow, but it's definitely still taking up so much of your time. You know, still make sure that you're committing some time for yourself, which includes your family, you know, your ability to still foster the relationships that matter, and some time so you don't get completely burned out.
And you know, that's such a good point, Ms. Marshall, because we can get lost into entrepreneurship because it does consume you. It consumes you.
So consuming.
We can work, you know, I know it's 24 hours in a day, but we can work 25.
24? Right? Okay, there you go.
So
I feel
literally,
like it.
you know, and we both have gone out of the country this year.
Yep.
I went out a couple times, and I know that even on those trips, it's so easy
to still do
to get on the computer on the beach.
My mom still is like, oh, so you bring your laptop. Well, the laptop gotta come.
It got to. I'm sorry. It's coming. it's going to come. You know.
But like you say, it's like making sure you don't just wake up, start looking at it, and then the day is gone. It's sunset, and you're just not getting on the beach.
Now, this is what I do because I'm an early riser. I get up 5 o'clock. So this is when I go out of the country, whether I'm with, you know, family or friends, from 5 to 7 because they're not getting up before 7.
No, they sleep.
Right. So I'm going to get up. I'm going to do 2 hours of work because we always have to plan. So from 5 to 7 a.m. when I know they're still asleep, I'll do what I need to do. They're ready to get up. We go to breakfast and we'll do whatever we need to do.
Yeah.
And that way we're not on the beach and, you know, answering emails. There has to be a balance. So thank you. And I have to be reminded of that because sometimes we can really lose track of that. So thanks for that reminder. All right, and we just talked about social media. You know, and social media shows the highs, the vacations, the fancy, the fancy restaurants, right? You know, the luxury cars, the big homes, and all that is great. But it's good to talk about lows because people think when they go in business, they're going to have $1 million house tomorrow.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to get the G-Wagon in a month. That G-Wagon may not come. It may never come.
May never come.
That big house may never come. So let's talk about a low that you have faced in business.
Well, my biggest low was probably the reason that I got introduced to you.
Okay.
So I woke up one day to a frozen bank account from the IRS because my books and records were, you know, self-made. But
I like that, self-made. I'm gonna tell my other clients that, are your books self-made?
They were self-made, and I had not established my bookkeeping accounts accurately, or, you know, payroll taxes weren't getting transmitted as they should, and the IRS was like, ma'am, you owe us $30,000. And I woke up one day and it was like, oh, okay. And I don't know if I necessarily felt like I was ignoring their notices. I'm sure I had received a couple. But, you know, when they freeze your bank account and you're like, oh, I got to run payroll tomorrow. What is happening here? You immediately perk up. So I think one of my lows was, it wasn't necessarily, you know, that anything that happened to me, because I honestly did it to myself. I should have consulted with a professional and making sure that, you know, my taxes were done correctly. I felt like it was a little bit of my wheelhouse, but not quite. Definitely business taxes are way different than personal taxes. Rule number one.
Say that again.
Rule number one. And so, you know, I had to go down there and figure out how to get my accounts unfrozen, because the worst thing that could have happened was me not being able to pay my people.
Right.
And so, you know, it definitely was a situation where I did end up, unfortunately, having to delay payment to them. And it was just a really bad situation. I hated that part, because one of the reasons I enjoy being in business is because I feel like I give people jobs, I give them opportunities for growth, and, you know, not being consistent in that moment made me feel really sad. But, you know, it taught me a few things. So, you know, I couldn't penny pinch on the things that were important, which were other professionals that I needed to help me run my business as well.
Right, and she brings up a very good point, taxes, because social media don't tell you about the corporate tax rate as of 2023 of 21%. They don't tell you. They don't tell you about payroll taxes, FICA, Social Security, Medicare. You're responsible for 1/2 of that. They don't tell you. They just say, make $1 million, get a G-Wagon and write it off. Like, that is just so, the concept of that. Yeah, you can write it off, but what about your taxes? Now, there are tax saving strategies, but you still have to pay your taxes, whether it be quarterly, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. And that's the things that a lot of small businesses don't account for. They just think we're going to go in, we're going to make money, and then that's it. Right, and go to Jamaica next year. You know,
maybe they'll make 6 figures, and, you know, it maybe not have as much liability because they don't have staff. But I continue to grow and grow, which is an amazing thing.
It is.
But never really reconcile what I needed to put into my business to support that growth.
Exactly. So very good point. When you think about business, as you are planning, as with her number 2 tip is plan, talk to an accountant, talk to somebody about planning for taxes and how to go ahead and start saving for taxes. What I tell my accounting clients is go ahead and put 16% away. And you may not need it at the end of the year with all your write-offs, but I'd rather have it and not need it than to wake up and owe the IRS 5, 10, 15, 20,000 and don't have it.
And they done took it.
And they done took it. So, or you got a tax lien. So now it's hard to buy a home. Which actually segment into our final question, because I know that you recently purchased a rental property.
Yes.
And it is nice. When she sent it to me, I was like, oh, this is so nice. So congrats on your recent purchase. What are a couple keys for someone who wants to buy a rental property? So this is not their main dwelling, but they want to buy a rental property.
So I think real estate is so valuable, especially as you get into a wealth building mindset, wealth creation mindset, generational wealth, whatever it is your goal and your target is, real estate has to be built into that mix. So I actually purchased my very first home when I was 23 years old with my sister, who at the time was 18. And so instead of us moving into an apartment, you know, we're like, let's just buy a house. And the journey kind of started from there. Over that time, I've probably owned and either had renters or fixed and flipped about 12 or 13 properties. This one I think was maybe my 14th property. And so being prepared for it is a number of things. Of course, you have to be prepared for some level of a down payment. But as you are planning your own personal finances, you can utilize that through existing home equity that you may have. I actually used my 401k at one point, which was a partner in my purchase. Right? So I didn't actually have to liquidate it and pay taxes on getting the money, and it wasn't necessarily even a loan, but you can do a loan too. But my 401k partnered with me in the purchase, and so the money that was in there was used as a down payment on a purchase of a home, and then as I sold it, I paid my 401k back. And that was a flip. And so, you know, that was money I had already been saving over the years anyway. So, you know, definitely be prepared in some form or fashion. Figure out what's going to be your strategy, how you may accumulate the funds for the initial down payment, and then ultimately whether or not you want that to be a long-term investment, which my most recent portfolio that I made some sales out of, I purchased a lot of those when the market was down at one point, and homes were, you know, in Atlanta, somewhere between $15,000 and $20,000, you can pick up a few. And me and my ex-husband at the time, we purchased 2. and the total purchase may have been 45, and we may have been all in 60 with some fixes. And we recently sold those properties for $275 a piece.
Wow.
You know, and so it's like the appreciation of the thing, and not only that, over those 10 years we had tenants. Yep. So you earn $1,000 a month or so, and then ultimately, you know, a gain of a couple $1,000 is not. I mean, a couple $100,000 is not bad.
It's not. And to piggyback on that, when we talk about wanting the luxury cars and wanting the trips, nothing wrong with that. But let your assets pay for the trip.
Absolutely.
So if you have a rental property, you're getting an extra $2,000-$3,000 a month. That's your car payment. That's the car payment for the G-Wagon, or to go to Mexico, or wherever you want to go, Jamaica.
Absolutely.
So use your assets to pay for your fun.
Absolutely.
So you never touch your own cash.
Absolutely. I'm using one of my assets right now. It just pays my mortgage, and I was like, oh, that's so neat. So you're pretty much living for free at this point. So yeah, I mean, I think when you're starting to look at it, figure out, even if you just say, well, I just want to buy one and figure it out later, you know, where will you get your down payment for it? Look into lending options. How much will it cost you to have a mortgage on that property?
Right.
Is that less than the current market rate, so you can get that rent covered, and then go from there.
Right. And it all comes back down to having good credit. Because if you got the good credit, you can get the mortgage at a lower interest rate. You can apply for different programs.
Absolutely.
You can get approved for the mortgage.
Absolutely.
But it starts with having good credit. If you have not already downloaded the app, download the app and find a specialist that can help you get your scores bare minimum 700. Especially if you want that G-Wagon, do not go to that car dealership under a 750 because the interest rate is going to eat you up. It's already a $200,000 car.
Absolutely.
It's going to take you 30 years to pay the car off. So get your credit in order. Get your first house, get your second home, your rental property, let that pay for your assets or any depreciating assets. Well, you have talked about a lot, Miss Marshall, and you see this? I've taken a lot of notes. I told her, look, she's an inspiration. You inspire me.
Thank you.
And I know you're going to inspire, my users of the application. She has taught us to commit to the business with a change mindset, plan and execute. Don't just say, yeah, I'm going to start the business, and then 2 months later I call you and you're still starting the business. So come up with a plan, and number 3, take time for yourself, because things do not always go the way that we plan it, but we got to have the mindset to keep going.
Absolutely.
What they say, take a licking and we keep ticking.
So one thing about it is, it'll as long as you're working on it, something's gonna happen.
Right.
If you never work on it, nothing's gonna happen.
Right. And even if it's not, I'm listening to the book about Amazon, and their biggest successes with Alexa came from a failure.
Wow.
So even if it doesn't go the way that you plan, you can pivot. You can shift, and it might turn into something else. So just keep going, keep planting those seeds, and something will grow.
Love it.
Yeah. So on that note, I cannot let you leave empty-handed. So I have something for you. We give out awards here at Creative Conscious Network.
Oh, this is a surprise.
Yes, ma'am. And I didn't tell you.
No.
So I have for you, CCN presents 2023 Businesswoman of the Year.
I love
Shayna Marsha.
This is amazing. Thank you.
Welcome.
I was not expecting that at all.
Yes, ma'am.
And let me take my trophy and put it on my desk.
Yes, when I come to the office, I want to see this,
There we go.
This is her Grammy, because she's amazing.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
I really, truly appreciate that. That's made my day.
Yes, thank you for coming, though. Thank you. Wow. Once again, I want to thank Miss Shayna Marsha for coming and talking to us about how having good credit has helped her in business. And remember the 3 keys that she taught us. Commit to the vision, plan and execute, and take time for yourself. With all these 3 things and having good credit, you can be successful, not just in business, but in life. Thanks, and remember, good credit is worth money.